Hi everyone, thank you for joining me. Once again, this is Trinity here with Trinity on Trail. So today we are going to talk about the big three in hiking. So get ready folks, we are talking gear. All right, so in hiking, the big three are the three main pieces of equipment that you need on your hike. So we are talking, one is going to be your tent or shelter. Two is going to be your sleep system, which could include a pad, whether it's a foam pad or a air mattress, and your sleeping bag or quilt. And the third of the big three is your pack. So this is the Nemo Hornet. It's a two-person ultralight backpacking tent. Unfortunately, this model is discontinued, but if you were lucky enough to get this one, or if you can get your hands on one, I highly recommend this tent. I love my Nemo. So, your shelter is one of your main pieces of equipment on your hike. So, it's important to get something that's going to be sturdy, that is going to work in a number of different environments. For me at least, cost is always a consideration. So for me, the Nemo was $313.71. And it comes in at a total weight of, with poles and everything, at 30 ounces. So a very lightweight tent, very packable. They have the pack so you can actually split it and separate it. If you're hiking with a partner, you can split the equipment up so that you can reduce your weight that way as well. So I decided to go with the two-person instead of going with the single person tent, because I don't like the idea of critters getting into my gear. So I don't like leaving my boots or my pack or anything outside my tent. So for me, I've invested a lot in my gear, so I want to keep it safe. So when I'm hiking solo, the thing I like about my Nemo is it's large enough that I can keep my pack and all of my gear in the tent with me and still have room to maneuver around. The other thing that I really like about the Nemo is, even though it is a very roomy tent, it has a relatively small footprint. So when you are looking for a campsite to set up, the Nemo was excellent, because on the AT, we came across times when, every campsite was pretty much taken up. So we had to squeeze in, and the Nemo let us do that. So we could fit that in places where other people could not. I hiked with a couple of friends. They were both carrying Durstans. And even though they liked their Durstan took up a much larger footprint than the Nemo Hornet did. So again, good, a good thing to consider when you're looking for a tent. Now, even though, it has, a relatively high, I think it's like a 4-inch high tub, I always carry a sheet of Tyvek for my ground sheet, just to add an extra layer of protection. I don't want things poking through the floor of my tent. So I do carry a piece of Tyvek. It's cut to fit my tent, the footprint of my tent, and it doesn't really add a lot of weight, but it gives me that little extra bit of peace of mind. Oh, this one here, the tent, when you have it set up on the poles, there is the tent, and then there is the rain fly that then connects to the poles over the tent. So obviously the point of a rain fly is to keep the rain out of the tent. Very much needed, especially for the Hornet, because the Hornet is made where if you just have the tent up itself, the whole upper, I think it's like 2/3 of the tent, it's all mesh, so that you can actually, keep, if on hot, dry nights, you can keep the fly off. It gives extra ventilation. It also allows you to lay back and do some stargazing. So a pretty cool feature. Let's see. And then you've got the fly for those wet nights as well. So it just snaps on really quick. The other thing I like about this particular tent is that whether you're solo or you're hiking with a partner, is that it has 2 doors and 2 vestibules. So, you know, you can each keep your gear safe in the vestibule. And when need be, you know, if anyone needs to get up and out in the middle of the night for any reason, you have 2 exits. So you when you're hiking with a partner, you don't have to climb over each other to get outside. But also, if you're hiking solo, you know, say you hear something at one side of your tent, you can easily get out quickly on the other side. So I like that. It's just a little extra feature that I enjoy. Also, Nemo has a warranty on their tent. So it is a lifetime warranty. And if there are any issues with your tent, any manufacturer issues, etc., they will replace it, which is a good thing to know, especially when you're on trail. That being said, we're going to start looking at the cons, and I don't have a large list of cons for my Nemo. Like I said, I love this tent. It's been fantastic. If you can get your hands on a second-hand one, because it is now discontinued, I definitely would recommend it. The con, so I talked earlier about the fact that the Nemo Hornet 2-person is designed so that it is a freestanding tent. You just snap it into the poles, it goes up really, really quick, and then you click on the rain cover over that, so the rain fly just attaches to the same poles. So very easy as far as putting everything up and together. It takes very little time to do so. And then, you know, the rain cover will act as protection from the rain to keep you nice and dry. Now, when I was hiking the AT, right when we hit Virginia, I had an issue where one night I went to zip my rain fly closed, and when I did so, the little zippers went right off the end. So when I contacted Nemo, unfortunately, it took an exceptionally long period of time for them to address the issue and to resolve the issue. I'm putting that off to potential miscommunication. Nemo did send me a new fly. It wasn't till, you know, I hit Katahdin, but I got my fly, and I've had no issues with it. All right, so number 2 is our sleep system. My air mattress it's a leftover from the AT. I've had it for 2 years now. As I said, it's gone and seen bits of the AZT, the CDT, and multiple weeks of hiking throughout Michigan, and no issues with it. So this is the Thermarest Neo Air X Therm sleeping pad, and it comes with its own little pump sack here. It has an R value of 6.9. So for those of you that are not familiar with R values, it's how warm this is going to keep you, right? So this one is rated for extreme cold temperatures. It comes in at 15 ounces, which is awesome. Very, very light, even with the pump sack. Pump sack weighs nothing. And it came in at a cost. Now, I purchased mine 2 years ago, and it cost me $171.93. And again, excellent investment. I was a little worried about it being an air mattress. So again, excellent choice here. I'm very, very happy with it. I believe this particular one, again, like my Nemo, is no longer being made. I think it's discontinued. They moved up to a newer model. All right, so now the second part of our sleep system is going to be your sleeping bag or quilt. We're going to look at 2 different ones because I am swapping out here. So when I purchased my original bag for doing my hikes, I wanted a bag that would get me through any conditions and that would get me through any trail that I chose to do. And that bag that I finally decided on was this one here. This is the Climate Wild Aspen. It is a 100% synthetic bag. It is a true 0-degree bag, and I bought it in the regular size. So it cost, well, let's look at weight first. The weight was 3 pounds, 3.2 ounces. So significant weight. It is a heavy bag. Cost was $70.73. So, for me at the time, this was the better choice because I knew no matter what condition I hit, this would keep me safe. And it turned out this was actually the best choice I could have made, because when I was on the AT in 2023, as I stated, it was the second wettest year in its history at that point. And I had a broken rain fly as well. So everything got soaked repeatedly, night after night. And this bag kept me warm. So for me, it was well worth the extra weight. Now let's talk about pros. So it will keep you warm even if it is soaking wet. I can vouch for that one. And at $70.73, you cannot beat that price. And it is a true 0 degree bag. So this baby, this was a good choice. Now the cons is, as we said, very heavy. 3 pounds, 3.2 ounces. I know people are just going, oh my Lord, woman, what were you thinking? But I've already explained, my thought process for that one. So, lynch me if you have to, but that was that. But the other thing too is that it's not just the weight, but this is it in its stuff set. And as you can see, it does not really compress down much more than this. So when it came to packing my backpack, I had to really get creative and tried multiple different things before I found something that would work for me. And although it worked, it really wasn't ideal. So it was one of those little things that you're like, oh, I can live with it, but day after day after day, or night after night after night, it starts getting at you. Like it just starts to eat away at you. So I love the bag. I will not get rid of this bag. Still keeping it. I will keep it for future hikes, where it's more practical. But for the PCT coming up, I am swapping out. Oh, and I also mentioned it does run small. So they said this on their website. I am 5'7", and I think their website said that for the regular or standard size, it fits up to 5'7", and then anything over 5'7", they recommend getting the long. And I looked at it and I'm like, wow, the long's just going to be that much more heavy and that much more cumbersome. So and I am 5'7", so I fit that, but no, it was a mistake on my part. They were honest on their site about it, and the reviews about it were honest too. When I pulled this one up over my head, it's a mummy bag, and to get the mummy bag in, I just literally had to tuck my head in, and then it was like it was going to snap my neck, like it was pulling so tight between my feet and my head. Not very comfortable at all. So I didn't really get to the full use of the mummy feature on this one. But again, my own fault on that one. So I cannot blame the company. So that's one to consider. Now let's look at what I'm swapping out for. So I have decided, despite all of my concerns with things getting wet and my experience of things getting wet, for the PCT, I've chosen to go with down, and the reason I have is because I am hiking Sobo, so I'm going to be starting my hike much later. The Nobos start they'll be starting March 1st, but Sobos we don't start. I think the earliest Sobo starts in June. So by the time I'm on trail, the rainy season in the Pacific Northwest should have passed at that point. So I should be able to get through Washington and Oregon and into Northern California before the weather turns again. That being said, with that, hoping for that window of drier weather, I decided to go with the a down quilt. Two main reasons: weight and packability. on the PCT, the resupply options, there's a lot more distance. So it means in between them. So it means longer, heavier food carries and water carries. So I know I'm going to be carrying more weight than I did on the AT. And after my frustration on the AT of trying to fit things into my pack, I decided that I want a bag that I can actually compress down. So that's why I decided to go with a down quilt. And also a friend of mine actually, he used it, excuse me, he used it and he had nothing but good things to say about it. So I ended up going with Hammock Gear. I am getting their, this is their Burrow 0 degree bag. And it's a quilt, not a sleeping bag, so it does not like zip up, but it does have a toe box that is a sewn toe box, so it helps keep drafts out a little bit more. And then they send it with straps that go over it to actually secure it to your sleep pad to help keep drafts out. So he didn't have any issues with it. It kept him warm while he was on the AT. He loved it. So I decided, to talk to a friend, and that's what they recommend. So that's what I'm going to go for. So I'm eager to try it out. And he had good things to say about Hammock Gear as well. The downside to buying down, first and foremost, and the most obvious when you start looking, is the cost. A down bag, a down quilt is going to cost substantially more than a synthetic, and more than probably like a synthetic down blend. So this one was no exception. It's not at the absolute high end that you can go, because if you look into down bags, they can go pretty high. This one cost me $313.97. It's a standard length quilt, 850 down fill, plus I got 2 ounces of overfill. That was my option. And the other thing I like about this one is it is treated down. So it does have some degree of water resistance. So it's not going to get saturated instantly. It will repel for a little bit of time. And hopefully, if it's just the occasional thing, that will mean that it'll be able to dry out much faster. And therefore still keep me warm. So I like that. Its weight, the weight is definitely one of the pros. Its weight comes in at 17.52 ounces, a huge difference from the 3-pound plus bag that I had on the AT. So weight, huge difference there. It compacts down, which I really like. I mean, right now it looks huge because this is just its storage bag. But down itself, when I go to put this in its stuff sack, see if I can open it up here. All right, like you can, it compresses down really nice and small and tight. So you can get it in just a really small little sack. So that's what I'm going to do. My stuff sack for this is quite small. Weight is amazing. So pros: great warmth to weight ratio, very lightweight, and very compactable. And when you're looking at having to carry additional food or water, that adds so much more weight. Wherever you can logically, save yourself some weight, so you've got more room for the food and the water, then that's the way to go in my mind. So cons: cost $70 compared to over $300. And then again, if it gets soaked, it's not going to keep you warm anymore. So that being said, what I do when I go out, period, is for emergency purposes, I always bring an emergency Mylar blanket, so that if I am stuck in some really bad temperatures or something I could not foresee, or something that's outside of the realm of what I could actually, predict that I might run into, I'm still safe. I had the Mylar just in case, and there's no no weight involved in that. It's very, very lightweight. So that will help give me a little peace of mind as far as the warmth if the bag does get wet. So that is it for our sleep systems. So we've talked about our tent, we've talked about our sleep system. Last but not least, of course, is our backpack. You know, good luck on you if you can hike without a backpack, although I've seen some people do it. So again, I am swapping out, I'm going with a completely different pack for my PCT hike than what I had on the AT. And so let's have a look at what I had on the AT and what I'm bringing on the PCT and why I'm doing that change. All right, so as I said, swapping out, this was a big one for me. The AT was my first through hike, and so I was very, very nervous about it, but I was very fortunate. I had a lot of really good resources. You know, I looked at everything from, you know, Reddit, you know, boards, to, you know, different magazines, etc., that are geared towards backpackers, online magazines and articles. I read a lot of stuff from the comments of hiking communities, people passed through hikers and what they recommended. And I ended up choosing for my AT hike, I went with Gossamer Gear's Mariposa. It's a 60-liter pack. It has a maximum load carry of 35 pounds. And it weighed in at 32.7 ounces. So it was considered an ultralight pack. And it was not my favorite pack. So if we're going to talk about why I'm swapping out for a new one, is very simple. Straightforward answer. It's because my Mariposa did not survive my AT. It disintegrated. I was not happy with that pack at all. So the first thing I noticed was that the pack itself had no true load lifters. So basically the shoulder straps sat right directly on your shoulders, and it just, with every movement, every time, you know, you leaned forward or leaned back or bent down to do anything, like putting it on, it just ground into my shoulders. And so within the first few weeks of my AT through hike, my shoulders were actually bleeding. They were rubbed raw by this pack. And then on top of that, it also, what I thought originally was going to be a really good aspect of it, or characteristic of it, was that it had this large, very large outer mesh pouch. And the thing I thought about the mesh was, well, this is great because when it's raining, anything that gets in there and gets wet, because it's mesh, it'll dry really quickly. So I thought that's awesome. You know, that's my fear, is, you know, getting wet and hypothermia. So I thought, you know, that would be fantastic. But when it actually came to, you know, practicality, I highly recommend against buying a bag with the mesh on the outer bag, because it's not practical. It's not strong or sturdy in any regard. On the AT, you know, you're going through a number of different environments. You're going through a lot of different terrain, and you have, you know, everything from, you know, rocks that you end up slipping and sliding on, or falling against, or brushing up against, to, you know, trees and shrubs and stuff, that are bushes that are, you know, they're ripping at your bag. And with the mesh, what was happening was it wouldn't just slide off, like it would hit the mesh and then it would tear. So I got tangled up quite a bit on the AT, and it just ripped my bag to pieces. But it wasn't just the mesh on the Mariposa. The bag itself was not durable in any sense of the imagination. It was way too flimsy. I referred to it as my Franken pack, or my Frankenstein bag, because this pack I had patched so many times on the AT. You know, at first I was just sewing it, so it had all these little scars all over it. And then it got to the point where I couldn't sew it anymore. So in some areas I was having to tape it. And then when the holes got too big around where I had taped it, I would actually take and sew the tape to the bag. And even with that, there were holes everywhere. I was having everything falling out. In fact, my side pouches where I carry my water, one of those had actually torn right open, and my water bottle with my Sawyer on it fell. It hit the ground and it shattered my Sawyer. So water was very, very important. Now, your equipment, for the most part, is stuff that you want to keep you, helps keep you alive. Your pack, not so much, but it does make it either possible or impossible to do what you set out to do. And if you have a bad pack, it's going to make it close to impossible to do what you set out to do. Now, I'm really stubborn, and I didn't have the budget for me to buy a whole new bag, so I made mine work. By the time we reached New England, the chest strap and my hip belt, the buckles on both of them, where they click in together, both of those had snapped. So I had to tie my bag on every morning. Whenever I wanted to stop for a break, I had to untie the double knots to get my pack off. When it would rain and I was wearing this, it would tighten those knots up, making it almost impossible sometimes for me to get out. If it weren't for having my hiking partner with me, I never would have been able to get out of my own pack at the end of the night. And it made some river crossings that were already really sketchy that much more dangerous, because I could not undo my pack to go across. So not a good pack at all. As well with the Mariposa, if you look at it, and I do have some pictures of a Mariposa so you can see what I'm talking about, it had one access route for the main compartment. So that meant all of your gear had to go into the main compartment, and then you would access it that way. That wouldn't be an issue, but I was carrying my Bear Vault with me, my Bear canister, and because I had the synthetic bag, the only way I could fit those two things into my pack was to roll up my Bear Vault in my synthetic bag and then stuff that in, like almost like a burrito, right? Stuff that into the pack, which made it near impossible for me to access food and snacks, other gear, in order to keep it closer to the top so I could get food and snacks during the day for my hike. That would mean I would have to bury everything at the bottom of my pack. So when I got to camp at the end of the night, I would have to unpack my entire bag, and most nights it was pouring rain. So it was not ideal. So those are some of the cons. Again, no true load lifters, only one main access to that main component. The outer compartment was the mesh, and it got hung up on everything. It was very flimsy. The hip and chest belts both broke. And all that came back to one of the other main issues I had, which was very, very poor customer service. When I contacted them and I'm like, hey, my back is just falling apart, everything's breaking on it, my shoulders are bleeding, they were like, your 30 days are long up, so good luck to you, right? And that was it, like, click. they were done with me. And I'm out through hiking and was very, very dependent on that pack. So like I said, I just made it work and I suffered through with it. But once I got off trail, I got rid of the pack. And for the PCT, therefore, I needed a new bag. So my pack for the PCT, I'm very, very happy and very pleased and excited to announce, is this one here. It is the Osprey Aura. It's the AG 65 liter backpack. Its max load capacity is 40 pounds, so 5 pounds more than the Mariposa. And again, with the longer food and water carries that we'll have on the PCT, that's a bonus. It comes in now weight. Everybody's going, oh, This is a 4-pound, 7-ounce bag. This is not an ultralight bag by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a sturdy bag. It is a durable bag, and it has features that make up for that weight. Excuse me. So one of the things that really, really impressed me here, if you can see here on the back, is this trampoline back support. And the nice thing about that mesh is it keeps the bag from sitting immediately up against you, so you're not covered and swimming in sweat. So it offers better airflow, but it just makes for a much more comfortable. I mean, think of it as like shock absorbers. It is what it feels like when I'm wearing this bag. And also this one has the true load lifters on it. And I've taken it out. I've had it out on the AZT and multiple hikes through Michigan, and it so far it's functioning well. Now I have not packed up to a full 40-pound capacity, but what I've had it out on thus far is it is a far superior bag. It has not even a single scratch or tear on it anywhere. The bottom is still in perfect mint shape. I mean, it looks like it just came off the rack at REI. It's a phenomenal bag. Strong. The outer pouch, like I said, on the Mariposa, this outer pouch here, this was all mesh. This one is it's a full fabric, so it's not the mesh. So it doesn't grab things as much. It is not as likely to snag. So when something, a branch hits this, it just slides off of it. With the mesh, when it would hit the mesh, it would grab the mesh and it would just tear at the mesh. So I also like that. But the big thing here is that this one has 2 different routes to access that main compartment. So when you have your main compartment here, which is, most backpacks have the main compartment, you stuff everything in here and you take everything out through here. This one's nice and roomy, but I can access stuff through the top, or I can go in on either side, and on both sides there is access too. So that allows me to be more creative on my pack and how I pack it. I carry my Bear Vault with me the whole hike. Again, safety concerns, I just think it makes sense. And so, other people say, oh, you don't need it, blah, blah, blah. Don't go with it. That's your choice. And it's not standard or not regulated for the full length of the trail yet. And you want to do that and take that chance, that's on you. I'm not going that route. I've worked out in brush. I've worked as a CMR archaeologist for a number of years in British Columbia, in Alaska. I've worked in bear country, and I know bear safety, and I'm not going to take that chance. So for me, my Bear Vault is coming with me. It's with me the whole hike. It just makes sense. I'm actually looking forward to them mandating it for the whole hike, but that's just me. So it gives me 2 different options. I can pack it in horizontally and I can access it, this way, or I can pack it in vertically and access it through the top. Both of these side pouches, so there's one on each side of the bag, so it makes accessing any of my gear that much easier and simpler. And it's those little things, those little annoyances that you're like, oh, that's so tiny, I can make do. Those are the ones that really start picking at you as the days go by. So I'm really, really happy about that. So overall, very, very good bag. So far, I have not had a single issue with it, and I don't anticipate having any. That being said, Osprey also offers just an unbeatable warranty, and they will replace your pack, they will repair your pack, and they do it on trail. I had a couple of friends that had issues, minor issues that they came up with on trail, and they contacted the company, and the company's like, what's your next town? When are you going to be there? And, you know, give me a date, and then they would have it there. So they would show up and everything was there and waiting. They would swap out, whether it was getting a loaner pack in the meantime or, you know, a part or whatever, they were taken care of. And customer service is huge to me. It really is huge to me. A lot of people, you know, they do. A lot of people can throw money into their gear, you know, like most people spend on a car or a house, and they have no problems with that. You know, good on them, but that's not me. I'm very, very budget conscious. So when I do make a purchase and it's a bigger ticket item, I want to make sure that's going to last me more than just a single hiking season, right? It should last more than one through hike or one section hike, right? You should not have the issues that I've had. So I don't think, and a lot of people will say, oh, well, you know, if you buy ultralight, you have to expect it. And I think that's a cop-out. My Nemo tent is an ultralight tent, and it has functioned beautifully for me. Like I said, a couple of minor issues, and once those were resolved, it wasn't a problem. But the tent itself, I've not had any issues with, and it's ultralight. So I think a lot of the times people call it ultralight so they can slap a bigger price tag on it, but what they're doing is they're just producing a crap product. And to me, the Mariposa was a crap pack. I would not recommend that to anybody that's going out hiking, especially somebody that is, you know, going out there for the first time, for their first through hike. It was not worth it. It was a nightmare. But the Osprey, I'm ready. I'm excited. It's going to be a good hike. So that being said, it is time for me to get out of here. We have covered our 3 big ticket items. And I just want to say, you know, please hit like and subscribe, and feel free to leave comments. I will try to respond to all comments. It'll get a little harder once I'm out on trail, but I absolutely love your comments. I love your enthusiasm. If you've got any questions, or if there's anything you'd like me to cover, you know, leading up to my hike, let me know. Drop that comment, and I will definitely take it into consideration. So that is it for now. This is Trinity on Trail saying thank you, and we'll see you down trail. Bye-bye.